Okay, welcome to another episode of the Growth Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Simon, and we are going to talk about growth, as we always do. Welcome, Simon.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So, Simon and I have never met before. It's our first time
This is true.
chatting, and so it's going to be organic, as Simon said. First question I always ask my guests is tell us a little bit about yourself. Whatever you want to share. Who are you? That kind of thing.
Yeah, we can do that for sure. So obviously my name is Simon. I'm here. I've grown up in the Central Valley my whole life, pretty much. Really have a lust for this podcasting, recording, talking about things that actually matter, which is ourselves in a way that is productive. And that's kind of led me through a lot of things in life. I've got into management, leadership, I kind of come from a really sordid religious background. And I've really kind of sparked myself to really get to know who I am as I get older. And
How old are you?
how old do I look? Now you're on the point.
Mid-30s?
I like it. I'm mid-30s. That's what I am. No, I actually just turned 42 Sunday.
Okay.
So, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Everybody always gets it lower, which is good. I guess I look pretty young for being in my 40s, so I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. How about yourself? How old are you? I've never met you, by the way. I want people to understand this. We haven't talked. We've talked via email a few times, and we're going to have this conversation. What's this like for you right now? Matter of fact, I'm going to throw it back just at you right now. Or how are you doing with that?
I love it. I love talking to people first time. It's just like, I feel like whenever I meet somebody new, I'm exploring a new world, a whole new set of experiences, outlooks, like you've lived 42 years of life on this planet, and you've probably lived a life that's pretty different than mine. Mm-hmm. And I really want to, we won't get to explore all of that here, but just your perspective on growth based on those experiences is very interesting to me. So I love it. I love doing this kind of thing, especially with people I don't know, because I get to learn and ask interesting questions. Mm-hmm. So you're 42, you grew up in the Central Valley, and you've been exploring, the self and what is that? What has that meant for you? What are you exploring?
Holy moly. And I want to get into that, and I really want to just say real quick, I love that perspective, what you just brought out right now, because I feel like that's what separates everybody, is this discomfort to really get into like, you're completely different than me. I know nothing about you, but that is the joy and the curiosity that we get to go, well, I want to know about it. Yeah. Because maybe it offers a completely different perspective that maybe I haven't thought of in my life. And I feel like us as a culture right now, especially, we're missing that. Everything is an echo chamber. Everything is black and white, right? And nobody is curious anymore. We all know exactly what we believe and who we are. And we know that the person in front of us may believe the same or not. And then we know everything based on that. And it's so false, right? Because you said it. Everybody's their own unique little world.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. So one of my big things about me is I'm a father. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry if I'm doing something here, but
no.
I love my son. That's one of my passions. My favorite thing is that I'm a dad. And we were just having a conversation about this.
How old is your son?
He's 17.
Okay.
His birthday's in June, and he's awesome, man. He's absolutely awesome. But we were talking about that, and because he's, part of the teenager mindset is, and we all kind of go through this where it's like, they hear something, see something, and they automatically know it, especially when it comes about somebody else. And I go, hey man, you got to stay curious, dude. I go, because we all have our own little weird worlds that we take part in. I go, and it's part of the human experience to start enjoying what somebody else's weird little world looks like. I go, because then they introduce you to that world and they bring you into it, and you can have a lot of fun doing that. So I'm going to get into your question now. Sorry, I wanted to kind of caveat that a little bit.
No, I like what you brought up, because when I was 17, I thought I was the shit.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Like we all do.
Yeah.
We all do. Yeah.
You don't. I mean, you discount everything and everyone else, maybe, I think most teenage boys tend to have that kind of a mentality. I didn't think anything like what I think like today, even 15 years ago. So
yeah, it's constantly changing. Oh man, it's really been interesting because I grew up in a very controlled setting. I had a great life growing up. In no way, shape, or form do I want to discount my childhood being raised. I had everything I needed physically, monetarily. My dad did very well. He was a general contractor growing up. We did really well materially, but emotionally, there wasn't really a big space for that. And I'm finding that as I talk to more people, because what's interesting is I do this in a private setting, but I'm usually where you're sitting, asking somebody about what's going on with them.
Yeah.
And so what I'm finding is that typically in a materialistic view where things are very high, what I mean is, they have the house, they have the car, they have all that. There's a lot of emotional things that maybe aren't typically being met. And in a lot of households that those things are being met, the physical may not be there. So sometimes there's just a trade-off, right?
So I want to stop you because you raised something interesting.
I'm going to talk. So jump in. Sure.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about what you mean by the emotional aspect of what could have been better, or what you thought wasn't as present as you would have liked it to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a big part of that was I was kind of a really emotional teenager growing up. I had really high level emotions, right? When I was angry, I was screaming, I was yelling. When I was crying or when I was sad, I was heartbroken. I was depressed. I was really, really sad. I had it was almost like these
deep emotions,
these big, huge emotions, right? And I would try to bring them to my parents in whatever way I knew how. We don't know how to bring them to anybody when we're kids. That's why you see kids screaming at the store, that they feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
And, and so we would bring that to them, and it was never really able to be met. And what I mean by that is like, okay, well, I'm really pissed off about this. And it's like, well, you shouldn't be pissed off. You have everything that you need. So you have no right to be pissed off, right? So it's an absolute cancellation or invalidation of a feeling. You don't have any right to feel that way. You shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't be sad. You shouldn't be upset. You shouldn't be anxious. You've got everything you need. You got everything that I didn't have. So you should just be happy.
Yeah.
Just be happy. Just be grateful. So that led to a lot of repression growing up. I would and it really dealt with a lot of self-soothing. And what I mean by that is, at a very young age, it was like I found things that were like pornography. I found things that I could self-soothe myself with, right? Masturbation, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And it became this thing where it was like I always had to feel okay. I always had to feel fine. And that was kind of like the start of a really problematic way to deal with anything, because from there it goes into, maybe substances or alcohol or, partying or whatever, right? Just numbing yourself to the fact that man, I am not happy.
Yeah.
And, as you get in, which is fine when you're a kid, but when you get into your teenage years and then your 20s, it's like you can really be destructive. Thankfully, I just had my time. I was never crazy, but I've talked to people who are, and people end up in jail. They end up committing horrendous crimes. They hurt their spouses. They hurt the people that they love, all from the point of I just don't know what to do when I feel an emotion. And so I do this thing, whatever it may be, right? For me, it was pornography. Other people, it's alcohol. For people, it's drugs or whatever, right? Maybe it's violence or whatever it is. And so when I say that, it was because of the type of people that go ahead. What do you got?
I think what you just said is a very astute observation, and this is what I'm hearing from you is we learn to process emotions in a certain way from an early age, and whatever way it is that we deal with it from an early age is what we end up doing again and again and again into our adulthood. Mm-hmm. And it stays with us.
Yeah.
And there are good ways to deal with those emotions and not so good ways to deal with those emotions. And I guess we learned that, we learn what to do or with those emotions from our parents or the adults in our lives. Because, like, let's say you're frustrated and your parents punish you because you're frustrated.
Right.
Then you learn that being frustrated is not a good thing. You should not be frustrated.
Or frustrated equals punishment.
Exactly.
So now when you meet frustration in your life, when somebody's frustrated with you, maybe like your kid, you pass that down and you go, now I'm going to punish you. So go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to jump in there. Yeah.
But having that self-awareness that this is a tendency I have and this is how I'm reacting. So I'm interested to know, how did you develop this type of self-awareness? Like, what did you do to get to this point of knowing these things about yourself?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that, by the way. It's been a really sorted journey. I tried to kind of will it into a way. We were very religious growing up. We grew up. I grew up as kind of a fourth generation Jehovah's Witness. It was very, very stringent, and that kind of played a factor as well, because you are very much viewed on an external. You're kind of judged on an external basis of what you look like, what your success looks like, or, your kids being well behaved. And so I didn't really have a lot of tools. I didn't have a lot of tools at all. And so I numbed myself for a long time. But
I have another question, because everything you're saying is interesting. So do you think...
I'm sorry. I go and go.
No. So it's completely good. So do you think that the treatment that you got at home, I'm sure there were lots and lots of wonderful things that you had when growing up.
Sure.
But whatever it is that didn't go the way you wanted, or all of it, do you think it had a lot to do with a set sort of way that was prescribed by the church?
Yeah.
And the church said, treat your kids this way, and that's what your parents did?
I think it played a part. I think that a lot of people that are around my age bracket, late 30s, 40s, our parents were being raised by a generation of people that were just really rigid. They were really hard. And they all had pretty rough lives. I interview a lot of people that are in like their 50s, 60s, and even 70s as well. And they all kind of have like not all of them, obviously, but there's the same kind of tone of just like, hey, man, you had it better than I did. So, buck up and figure it out. Because, I got the hell beat out of me every day. Did you? So you should be happy about it. It's like, well, that's great that you didn't get the hell beat out of. I didn't get the hell beat out of me, but that's not actually how life's supposed to be, So I feel like it was a kind of a perfect storm, which is, to say that is a beautiful thing, because that's life, right? But I feel like it was people who really didn't have an understanding of emotions or what to do with them inside a culture that said, hey, this is how you do this, so just do it this way. And for somebody who doesn't have tools, like, for example, if you walked in here and didn't know what to do with anything, and I said, well, take the mic and throw it across the room, you'd probably do that. You don't know any better, right? So yeah, I definitely think that there was a factor with that, but we are who we are at the end of the day. We also know kind of what's right and wrong, what feels right and wrong. So we have that. So I do feel like it was kind of a two-factor thing, or a perfect storm. So I say all that to kind of lay the foundation of I got married in the church. I was married to my first wife, who is my son's mother, for about 12 years. And it didn't work out. She ended up we ended up splitting up, and it was so ironic. We do these things, and this is what I'm passionate about, because, during that, because I couldn't handle emotion, I couldn't ask and bring myself to deal with the things that were in the room. And what I mean by that, right? So there was obviously something in the marriage that didn't work. We didn't work. And I couldn't talk about it because I was afraid that if I brought up this thing, right? Like, for example, I'll say this. I knew at the end of the day, in my bones, I knew that this beautiful woman that everybody, I'm going to change this mic around. Sorry, it might make a little noise. Okay, now we're going to do that.
You're good.
Yeah. All right, sorry. But I knew at the end of the day that I didn't feel loved from this woman. And I knew it. I knew it in my bones. And it would stress me out. It would cause me anxiety. And because I didn't know what to do with those emotions, the old patterns would cycle, right? When our nervous system goes, or when my nervous system would go, it'd be like, well, just go do this. This will make us feel better. And I caused all kinds of problems in my relationship. I wasn't faithful You know, I caused all kinds of trust issues with her. And I started to look back at this when the marriage fell apart, and I could blame her all day long. She ended up, you know, batting for the other team, which is fine. And that was a very inconvenient out for me, or rather a convenient out for me. But if I was honest with myself, I knew I didn't show up in the relationship the way I wanted to. And that was authentically, because I was afraid. I was afraid of, what if I talk to her and I go, hey, do you not love me? Like honestly, like, are you not attracted to me? Are you not, you know, do you not love me? I felt like, well, I'm going to lose my wife and I can't deal with that. You know, I don't know how to deal with that. I've been married with this person. We're both witnesses. We're both in this religion together, because it was more than just, I'm going to lose that. It's this big implosion. So the irony is I lost her anyway, and I lost her in the most horrendous way possible. And it caused me to really look at how I approached my life and how I approached myself, and how I was so afraid of so many things, so many conversations, so many emotions, so many feelings. And I felt that really what it was at that moment, you know, when that happened, I was bitter, and I had all these emotions, resentment, you know, I was like, you know, really fuck her, you know, and all this and that. But it was like, if I was honest with myself, it was like, it was me. And I thought, okay, how do I get into this? Because I have no tools. It was very apparent to me that I had no tools. I was just numbing myself either with alcohol or whatever, right? And it's so interesting because I was.
What do you mean when you say you had no tools?
I had no tools to become aware of, like we talked about, right? When there's something that pops, like, okay, well, somebody brings something to you, you have a reaction, maybe it upsets you, right? For somebody who doesn't have tools, what happens is I become anger, or I become the emotion. I become frustration, right? Which is so detrimental to our existence, because we aren't meant to become those emotions. Like, it's so interesting. We were watching, have you ever seen Fearless with Jet Li?
No.
Okay. So I'm not going to go into the whole deal, but at a certain point, he spoilers. It's a really old movie, so if you haven't seen it, that's your fault. It's a great kung fu movie. It's a great story about self-discovery. He's this martial artist dude who watches his dad lose in, like, when he's a kid, and it messes him up. He's too young to understand that his dad actually won the match, but he didn't want to hurt the person he was fighting, so he just took the loss instead of actually killing the dude in front of him, in front of his kid. So his whole thing was like, I watched my dad lose. My dad was a loser. Like, I don't want to be a loser, and I'm always going to win. And he lost the fight. He fought the kid whose dad beat his dad and lost again. So he lost, and he was like, I'm never going to lose again. So anyway, you fast forward to when he's adult. There's this other master in town who's like the guy, and they end up having this big fight, and he kills him. He kills this guy. And he kills him in front of that guy's kid. It's the irony, the paradox, right? And that kid ends up killing the main character's mother and his daughter. And it's brutal. And because he's so angry, right? He's just angry. He wants vengeance. He wants revenge. Not even thinking about the fact that he killed this guy's dad, right? He becomes anger. And I was watching with my son. He goes to the house where this kid is, because, you know, this kid killed his wife and his mother and his daughter. And he goes to kill this kid. Kid kills himself because he knew. He's like, I just wanted to hurt you because you hurt me. Kills himself. And he then points a sword at the guy who he killed, his wife and his daughter. And so now he's doing the same thing that was done to him. And I looked at my son and I go, that's what anger does. I go, he's become anger. I go, anger has to point itself at something. And he kind of comes to grips with himself eventually and drops the sword and runs away. But I go, that's the danger of becoming an emotion. That's why people do these crazy things. And they go, well, how come you did it? And they go, I don't know why I did it. It's because you weren't there. I mean, yes, you were there, you were watching, but you were in the passenger seat. The emotion is what was driving the car at that time, right? Yeah. So that's what I mean when I say I don't have tools. When you don't have tools, then whatever the emotion is that you're feeling at the moment is what you become. When I felt grief, I became grief. When I felt, and I would, from grief, I would transition into sorrow, because I didn't, you know, these are really powerful emotions. They're not meant to take over your whole, you know, psyche. They're meant to be experienced, and they're meant to be understood. They're meant to help unlock whatever trauma is there. And then they're meant to be let go. Right. And so I became painfully aware that I didn't have any tools. And it was so interesting because at the time I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and he was, Joe Rogan talks about DMT and ayahuasca and plant medicine, 24/7. And this was way back in the day. This was 12, 14 years ago. And he kept talking about ayahuasca and he kept talking about DMT and all this stuff. And I was like, maybe I'll check that out, And so I went on this journey to try to find DMT, and can I even talk about that on here? Sorry, I'm asking.
You can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
I'm so sorry. I'm like, hopefully I can talk about this. But I started really trying to like find ways to like do this, to find it, to see if there was people who were doing it. And I say all that, but it was like, to do it back when I wanted to do it, you had to like get on the dark web, you had to like do all this stuff, or you had to go places, which I was like, I'm not going to
Brazil.
I'm not going to Brazil to go get my mind blown, like whatever, And I ended up meeting a friend of mine at a place I had worked, and he was just a tenacious son of a gun, man. He was a super cool dude. We were kind of like on the same wavelength. We liked the same music. One of those deals where you just kind of like meet somebody and you're like, man, you're a cool freaking dude. Like, you're a cool freaking dude. We became cool freaking dudes together. And we ultimately did DMT together. And it was really interesting because I got to kind of see the world from a lens of like, man, none of this really matters, but it's in the best way possible. Not because, people can hear none of it all matters. None of it matters.
None of what matters.
Any of it. This life, you, me, all of it. It doesn't matter, And it's like,
what do you mean by matter?
Well, it's like this. It's like life is what you make it. A lot of times,
because that can be interpreted in a different way.
Then that's what I was getting to. Again, exactly. You're absolutely right. Depending on the person that hears that can mean the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Or it can mean the best thing ever. Or it can mean absolutely nothing, depending on who's hearing it and the frame of mind they're in when they're hearing it, right?
You can hear it like, let's go jump off a bridge.
Exactly.
You can hear it like, take it as it comes and it's all good.
Yeah. Or hey, let's start up a multi-million-dollar company. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. And that was this realization of like, whoa, so nothing's separate from me. It's only about what I'm able to perceive, understand, and take part in. And it was just this blinding experience of like, everything that you're afraid of, you're supposed to be taking part in. And I became painfully aware of the fact that like I was afraid of a lot in my life. I was afraid of.
How did you come to that realization?
Yeah.
That everything that you're afraid of.
Yeah.
Because I read a book that pointed at that. It's this book by Seth Godin. I don't know if you ever heard of this guy. So he's an author. The book is called What to Do When It's Your Turn, and it's always your turn. And if you, it's sort of a coffee table type book. If you read it, beginning to end, all it keeps saying is, go do what you're afraid of doing. At least that's my takeaway from that book.
No, I agree. And I tell people now, I go, we have, especially in the West, we have fear mislabeled. I go, we feel fear and we run. I go, fear is the only indicator. It's where you're supposed to go. I go, people wonder, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do this? Is always go to the discomfort, because it's scary and people don't want to do it, but that is how we grow.
So what were you scared of or are you scared of that, when you came to that realization, what did that mean for you?
Yeah. So, what I was afraid of was actually being happy. I hadn't been happy most of my life. And I say this to a lot of the people that I talk to that are making transitions in their lives and things are going away, or there are people that are, in their lives that are accusing them of certain things or whatever. And I say, this is what you have to remember. I said, for someone who is emotionally, mentally, or energetically sick, health looks weird. And that is from my own experience of going, I haven't been happy for a long time. Why haven't I been happy? I had everything that I needed, right? I was never homeless. I was never starving. I was never doing any of these things or experiencing any of these things that really can take your innate joy away. But yet I always felt like it was never where I was supposed to be. I always felt like I needed to be someplace else, or I needed to have more of whatever,
What did you think was missing in your life that if you did have, it would make you happy?
It transitioned. At first it was money, and then it was, a successful relationship, and then it was, a new car, whatever it is, a house, very material things. And I was able to trace that back, obviously, to how I grew up. We remember our happy times as kids because they're so profound.
Yeah.
And so we tend to, whether we know about it or not, we tend to really look back to the things that we look to recreate our childhood in one way, shape, or form, right? So I was going through those things, and really, what I ended up bringing it down to was, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want, and I don't know where I belong, and I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen. I wasn't taking my turn, so to speak, right? So I really got into a lot of self-help stuff. I read, Letting Go. I'm going to butcher his name. Is it Dan Hawkins? I can't remember his name. I'll tell you though, one of the books that really broke my brain was, and I highly recommend it, is, and now I'm forgetting about it. It's, Way of the, I can't remember it now. But it's basically a man about masculinity, like divine masculinity. And it's like Way of the something. I can't remember it. Of course, I can't remember it now. But it really broke my brain because it was like about challenging yourself as a man. And in doing so, you weren't challenging, you could challenge yourself physically, but it was more about really getting into the things that makes you feel uncomfortable. Like, so for me, it was like, I had a lot of anger, right? That was something that made me feel powerful. So anytime anger would show up, I would express that, whether that meant like punching a hole in the wall or throwing something against the wall or screaming or yelling at somebody, or in a lot of cases, what it meant was just, and as you can tell, I can talk verbally, was just like dissecting somebody in front of me, right? If I could verbally assault you in a way that made you feel less than when we started talking, I felt better about myself. And so I really started to question, what was that about? Because anger is a false power. We feel big and we feel powerful when anger comes out. However, the strength is allowing yourself to go, yeah, I'm angry, but I'm going to use that. I'm not going to become that, right? So I really started approaching anger from a different perspective. When I got angry, instead of screaming or yelling or allowing myself to react right then and there, I would wait. And I would take a breath, or I would actually just take a pause and say, hey, I need to take a break. Give me a few minutes. Or, hey, I'm going to take 20 and I'll be back. And what I would do is I would write about what I was upset about, what I wanted to do, why I was angry, what I wanted to do with this anger and all this stuff. And I started to see that I was like, dude, this is crazy. This isn't even me. This is like, but it was me. It absolutely was me. And I was like, whoa, I've got this thing in me that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And it wants to hurt everybody and it wants to do all these things. So why is that there? And that's what kind of started my journey on this self-help or this self-awareness, this self-journey, because I was like, I've got a really big, at that point I called it a big monster. Now it's just a big emotion. I've got this really big monster in me that is walking around with me and it's telling me what to do. Because every time it comes out, I just do whatever it wants to do. If that means breaking something. And here's the thing. After you express the anger, the way the anger wants you to express itself, it leaves. It's not there anymore. You feel like an idiot for breaking something that's yours. You feel like an idiot for punching a hole in the wall. You feel like a jerk for yelling at the person that you love. Anger's not there anymore. He's gone. He did what he was going to do. He's gone now.
Anger, in my opinion, just destroys. It's a destructive force. That's what it's there for. So the way I kind of see the world at this point in life is we think, say, and do things either out of love or non-love. Mm-hmm. And love shows up differently in different situations. Yeah. So if I'm courteous to you when we're, on the road and driving, that's a loving thing to do. If I give you way, that's if you hug your son, that's love looks different with different people in different situations. Non-love also looks different in different situations with different people. And it's all about that intention, right? I think being forgiving is a loving thing to do. And I think ultimately you are a powerful person if you are a loving person, because I think love is giving and forgiving. And if you can give, and forgive, it doesn't make you weak. It means you have a lot of reserves to be able to do that. If you can, if you're taking, you're beating, you're destroying.
Yeah.
That, to me, you're weak.
Yeah. No, I agree with that statement. And it's actually interesting. Again, Letting Go talks about the numerical value of what emotions hold. And love is the infinite number. It's the most powerful emotion that we have at our disposal. And you can't have love without forgiveness. You just can't. They can't not exist in the same room.
No.
And you're absolutely right. Anger is a very powerful emotion. It's a destructive emotion. It's also a very heavy emotion. People who are angry, and I tell people about this all the time, excuse me, but I talk about them and I go, this is what you have to understand. We are not meant to hold on to any of the emotions that we have besides love and forgiveness. So when we hold on to things like grief, when we hold on to things like anger, and when it's interesting because when I started to have these conversations with people, I saw lights clicking in them. I got to clear my throat one more time.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry. But when I started talking to people about these things, what the looks that I got and the faces that I got were like, come on, man. And I was like, listen, here's the deal. I go, you're aware of what stress is, right? I go, can you taste stress? Can you touch stress? It's an emotion. I go, but it can spike your blood pressure. I go, anger's no different. I go, anger, sorrow, grief. I go, all these things, we're not meant to hold on to them. So when we do, I go, our body takes the toll. I go, our body is the thing that suffers from that. That's why, have you ever met somebody who's angry? They got all kinds of problems medically. When you meet somebody who's chronically depressed, their body is, I can tell an emotion that somebody's typically suffering from just by what they look like.
Yeah.
How they move. And I'm sure you can too, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I can, but I could tell you about a personal experience.
Yeah, please.
I went through, some family issues that resulted in me being really angry. And I held on to that anger. And that anger made me depressed first. So I was not getting out of bed, after 12 hours of sleep. I was still tired. And then came anxiety. And I was anxious. If you, in your head, at least for me, if you cook up these angry, things you want to do and thoughts, then I feel like it also makes you fearful.
Yeah.
That, somebody else might do that to you. And then it makes you anxious.
Yeah.
And it's a vicious cycle. Your brain goes out of whack.
Yeah.
It just messes, and the chemicals in your head, shift, and your dopamine levels, drop, and that's why people take antidepressants and
right.
those types of medications. So, to your point, it absolutely affects your body when you feel certain emotions consistently. I think that the key word is what you refer to. It's consistently feeling a certain way. You can feel it, but then you have to do something with it and let it go.
Right. And that's when you're able to do that, that's when the beauty of emotion starts to happen. That when, something that shows up like anger or sorrow or grief or anxiety, you start to see them for the things that they are, which is all they're doing is they're alerting you to something. You're going, this is in the room, or this is happening for you right now. And when you don't have to look at those things, and I want to speak about what you said, because you're absolutely right. And I agree with you. When you start to foster that mentality, like you said, you were upset, you were angry, and then you held on to it, and then it turned into anxiety, right? And you're absolutely right. And what happens, and what I've noticed happens in that situation, is now that becomes our experience.
Yeah.
Everything causes anxiety because you're anxious. So you could have somebody give you a gift, and before you know it's a gift, you're anxious about what they're going to do.
Yep.
You can't be present for what's actually in front of you because you're living in a world of anxiety. right? And it was revelations like this. Like when I was doing a lot of reading. Way of the Divine Man, is that what it's called? I forget what it's called. It spoke about it there, but it talked about a lot of it in letting go, how these emotions start to shape our world. It's like, and I always tell I watched a video recently that really kind of let it home. They were talking about, it was kind of a self-help conference. I don't know if you're familiar with Bashar, but he's like he's kind of like a professed guru type dude. He's pretty cool. There is some faith to it because he's supposedly channeling like an ET of sorts. But it's very cool. But he, this gal got up there and they're asking him questions, and she goes, I really have a hard time like trusting people. And he interrupted her and he goes, you can't. He goes, you can't do that. He goes, you can have an experience of not trusting people. He goes, but you're trusting that experience. You're trusting that everybody that you meet is going to be not trustworthy. So therefore, everybody that you meet then becomes not trustworthy. But you're trusting that. So there's a paradox, you can have an experience of everything being out of control, but you're controlling that.
Yeah.
You're controlling the fact that you believe everything is out of control. So when we lose, and that's what I'm talking about as far as like allowing the emotions to jump in the driver's seat, because now everything is anger, everything is like you said. And then it's almost as if, and it's really interesting because where I'm at right now is I've gone the plant medicine route. I've had big breakthroughs. I've done ayahuasca. I popped, as they say, where you kind of dissolve, your ego frame dissolves, all your emotions dissolve. And it's just, I guess the closest thing would say like is bliss or nirvana or meeting God or what people say. And you truly understand that it's like nothing's separate from you. And so when you talk about love and forgiveness, I'm going back into faith from my own point of view. Now, I'm not going back to the same faith, but I'm going back into faith, and I'm really trying to connect with source and higher power and really try to understand what is this relationship that I'm supposed to have with you. And it's so interesting to me when I tell people, we get to talking and I go, how's your relationship with your parents? How's your relationship with your father? And there's usually a ton of resentment there, or there's a ton of anger there. And when I tell them, I go, have you tried forgiving them? I'm not doing that. I'm not letting them off the hook, and it's like, that's cool, but they're not on the hook. You are. You're the one who's on the hook.
Yeah.
And it goes back even to a biblical point. I mean, hey, forgive others their trespasses. It's not for them. You're not doing them a favor.
Forgive if you want to be forgiven.
Right. And it's so basic. It's so, we know that, but when somebody does you wrong, when somebody messes your life up, and you come up with a reason as to why I can't forgive that person.
Yeah.
Now what you're doing is you're holding that in.
Yeah.
And it starts to mess with everything you have going on metaphysically, energetically, mentally. And it's just amazing to really look at these things in scripture again from where I'm at, because I've kind of gone the whole way around. I've done the spiritual thing. I've done the self-help thing. And I'm not saying any of those are wrong. I needed all of those things. I always tell people, I go, I'm very stubborn. So God had to kind of show me in a lot of ways that like, hey man, like maybe do it this way. I've got the hacks on. Like you can do it this way or you can do it your way, but your way is really tough. If you want, that's cool. But and it's like really breaking these things down to where it's like how powerful forgiveness is. And that's why it's so difficult, right?
Yeah.
Because it's truly powerful. It's not hard to, let your emotion take over. People act like it is, but it isn't. It's not difficult to be overwhelmed with anger and then just become anger. It's not. Go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah. So I guess I oftentimes have this discussion with my wife.
Mm-hmm. I like where this is going. Good. Yeah. Very much.
About forgiveness.
Yeah.
And so I'm originally Iranian.
Okay.
And Iranians are, I think, 90% Muslim, 10% Christian, Jewish, Zoroastrian,
okay,
other faiths, Baha'is, etc. And so
you guys are very exotic,
Exotic?
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah. I mean, I guess to a North American or
Yes.
to a Western audience, yes. In Islam, there is, if somebody kills your family member, right? Your next of kin, you can forgive them under the law.
Okay.
So, if somebody kills somebody's wife or kid or whatever, you can go in front of a judge and say, I forgive this person.
Wow.
And that person is off the hook.
It's clear.
Yeah.
Wow.
They may, you may ask for some blood money, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're not, they will probably go through some rehabilitation type thing, right? It's not like,
I kind of like that though.
Go and kill somebody else tomorrow. You're off the hook. Go kill. It's, you're supposed to go. They're supposed to be sorry, right? And that's, but where I was going with that is,
your wife.
Yeah, I'm like, it's better to forgive, But she's like, if they killed, my family, why should I forgive them?
Right.
Right.
Good question. What do you answer?
And I don't have an answer for that. I really think, and thank God I've never been in that situation.
Yeah.
But, you never know. But in my heart, I feel like if I, God forbid, was ever put in that situation, I would want to forgive if the person was genuinely sorry for what they did. I would want to forgive, because taking another life or having someone go to prison for the rest of their lives, if you think that person won't do that to someone else, what's the point?
Right.
Like that's not going to bring the person that they took away from you back, right? And you're now taking that person away from their loved ones.
Yeah, it's loss all the way around. The cycle continues.
Yeah. So it's not like, it's punishment for punishment's sake.
I like that. Yeah.
Right. I feel like, Department of Corrections, rehabilitation. It's not the Department of Punishment.
Right.
Right. So I think society realizes that, we do these types of things. So I don't want to get into the court system and the criminal justice system, etc. But my point,
we'd be here all night.
Yeah. My point is, forgiveness in grand and small ways is something that we, I think, respect. And I don't know of any faith that tells you don't forgive, punish, kill. No faith tells you to do any of that. I believe in, there's one faith. That I think there's one God.
Okay.
I think, I feel like faiths are like languages.
Yeah.
People speak different languages, but water is water. You may call it something else, but it's water. And faiths are about how do we interact with each other? How do we treat each other? How do we treat ourselves?
Yeah.
How do we treat the environment? And most faiths are not telling you to go off and do crazy things to other people. They're like, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, be nice to each other. Now how you pray or get close, you may say, a Christian may say one thing, a Jew may say another, a Muslim, a Buddhist, whatever. That's to each their own. You do what works for you.
Right.
But I feel like the rest of it, at least this is my perspective, it's all about love. I think God is love. I think the universe is made of love.
Yeah.
I think love is a creative energy. Where there is love, there is trust. There is creativity.
Yeah.
There's building, right? If you take those things away, it's complete destructions. And I think the thing about non-love is it destroys everything, including itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So love loves everything, regardless. Infinite love. I think if you're God, you could commit 1,000 sins. God will still love you.
Right.
And so he is infinite love.
Have you always thought that, or is that something that you came to?
No, I that's what I was saying. I didn't even have this on my radar like 15 years ago. I didn't even think about this stuff.
What was it that brought that on your radar? If you want to go into it, or if you mind me asking.
Yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely. So
I'm just really curious because you seem like a really genuine dude. Like you seem like a peaceful person. So
thank you.
Yeah.
No, I went, so like I was telling you, and those questions that I sent to you, I've gone through different, things in my life, and I've reflected on them, and that they have led to, paths of discovery. So in terms of this, thinking about God and all of this stuff, it was, I guess, after that episode where I was depressed, I'm like, I need to really understand, what is this? Like, because I'm a pretty inquisitive person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what does it mean to be? What is depression?
What is this thing that I'm feeling?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What is it? Like, it's not that I'm the only person who's experienced it.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is anxiety? What is like, where does it come from? And if you trace, and so actually, it's a good question you ask me. So I went to a doctor, a family doctor, and she said to me, here are some antidepressants. She wrote me a prescription for, what is the famous one? It's
Prozac.
Prozac,
Okay.
exactly. 20 milligram.
Yeah.
It's like the minimum.
Bare minimum.
Yeah.
I was on Prozac like 100 years ago. So like for a year.
Yeah. So she gives me this prescription, and she says to me two things. She says, being depressed is primarily about how you think about yourself, the world, your philosophy of life, etc. The second thing she told me is, don't go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, because most probably they'll end up giving you mommy issues. Like they're like,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
they'll trace it back to,
To trauma.
yeah, which is, I don't know if I agree with that, but the first point I took to heart, and I did end up seeing a counselor for a period of time,
Did they bring it back to mommy issues?
somewhat.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Those things are there too. They're very real.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. No, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that you should be angry with your mom
Right.
or hate their mom.
Right.
You should just realize what happened to you
Yeah. Yeah.
and how you can deal with it.
Right.
And it won't make it go away. It's just knowing that you have something that's happened to you, and you have a trauma, and you have these things that are specific to you that you don't know how to deal with, or you have an issue with. It's like knowing, you have a bad shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah. It's being aware. I always tell people that the first mistake of anybody who's like doing any kind of work is that I'm messing with the mic here. Is that they're trying to get rid of something. You never get rid of anything. It's a part of you.
Yeah.
It's simply acknowledging that I have this. Because once you acknowledge that you have it, then you can see it when it's there. When it shows up, you're like, oh, hey, you're there. As opposed to going, well, I don't have that. Now it's out of control. Now it's the elephant in the room, because you're not looking at it saying, oh, you're here. Oh man, it's my shoulder, right? If you have a bad shoulder, you're not going to go throw a baseball game. But if you're not willing to accept the fact that you have a bad shoulder, you're going to rip every muscle in your shoulder until you can't use it anymore. It's a very destructive way of thinking. So continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
absolutely. So, essentially, I went to these classes for a year and a half about mysticism and that kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of Rumi, the poet.
Somewhat. I'm not super familiar, but I'm familiar enough.
Yeah. So, anyways, I went to these classes. Some of the things that they talked about, sat well with me. So I'm a believer in, you should hear everything and figure out what you want to take from whatever you hear.
I agree.
And so I heard, so I don't prescribe to any one ideology 100%.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll hear everything, and whatever works for me, works for me.
Take what is useful and discard what is useless.
Exactly. And that's what I did with those, mysticism type classes that I went to. And that's that started me on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've never been a religious person,
Okay.
but I needed to understand for myself, like, what are we talking about when we talk about God and religion and, this kind of thing.
These are the big questions, man. Like these are the ones that really tear you to the core once you figure them out.
Yeah.
So that's cool that you're doing that. Yeah, keep going. Tell me about it.
And what I realized I found this guy, this clergy, this Islamic clergy.
Okay.
And he gave sermons, he's like, so Islam is very much like Christianity and Judaism, is that, there's a God, there's a heaven, there's a hell, there's a day of judgment, etc. It's
Okay.
same type of thing. And then he got disrobed. So he was kicked out of because of the way he thought.
Okay.
And his whole deal was this. He's like, God will not send you to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You will become hell.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we got to get into that because that's
Right?
yeah.
And when I thought about it, and the way I think now, it's, if you think about it, there is an ultimate source for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, so if you think about some, pure oxygen, it's just O2. Pure water, it's HO2. There is a pure something.
Mm-hmm.
Pure love is God.
Yes.
God is not a judge. There is no courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
You become hell if you keep exercising non-love.
Yeah.
If you are constantly angry, pissed off, sad, depressed, whatever it is that is destructive. If you are envious, jealous, all these things that are non-loving towards either yourself or someone else. If you consistently practice these things, you become hell.
Right.
And then that's it. That's and then what happens in the afterlife? Nobody's come back to tell the
Right.
story.
We don't know that yet. Yeah.
But my belief is, when you die, whatever your last breath is like, whatever you're feeling at that point, that's who you've become.
Yeah.
In this lifetime.
Yeah. And, I want to kind of speak to that and I want to come back to that. So, mark that for us, because it's like, that was one of the experiences that I had when I did plant medicine. We had done 5-MeO DMT, which is like, I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's like the most powerful psychedelic on the planet. And people do it. I don't know why people do it. I was doing it because I was looking to go inward. I wanted to really be unfettered and unhindered by like my
Can
own
I ask
stuff.
you a question?
Absolutely.
What was your ultimate sort of motivation for this discovery, or did you have one?
I just, I wanted to know why I looked at everything the way that I did. You talked about what hell is, right? And I really felt like it didn't matter what I did, who I dated, what I was doing, what job I had. I was just fucking miserable. I was miserable. And I couldn't figure out why.
Happiness.
I was like, why can't I find happiness? Like, why can I feel happiness for a few minutes or a few days or a few weeks? And then I'll eventually, no matter what happens, I come back to this place of misery, and it affects everything, like you said. And again, this isn't like official Christian doctrine in any way, shape, or form. This is just Simon's goofy mind, right? But I like my goofy mind, and it's like because people wrestle with that. Even in the Christian community, everybody has their own version of hell and what that looks like, and people fight about it. And they go, well, I don't believe in a God that's going to do this for somebody, burn them for eternity. Well, it's like, well, you had the chance, this or that, but it's like. I think of what, like, I don't know, like an addict, right? I think of what an addict looks like a true blue addict, somebody who's just completely addicted to whatever. We'll say alcohol, right? Mm-hmm. I've known plenty of alcoholics in my life, and they're completely miserable people. And the only time that they're not miserable is when they're just between that, like completely drunk and getting drunk, like right in that middle area. And that's what they're trying to attain, but they can't They can't keep it there. They're self-medicating. And so what happens is eventually their life becomes this whole point of like needing to chase that feeling, but they don't want to do the work to do it themselves. They don't know how to medicate themselves with the alcohol. The alcohol isn't designed to medicate you from that in a proper way. So that's why you get this cycle of just being a drunk. And when we find these people who are just completely lost in their addiction, they're in hell. They're in absolute hell. They can't appreciate anything. They can't love anything. They don't like anything. They are committed and addicted to one thing and one thing only, and that's I need to feel better. I need to feel better. And this is what makes me feel better, so I'm going to do that. They chase this over and over again. And I've always just thought that because, and I'm going to bring it into what I was talking about now, my big highest experience, and the reason why I went in this way is because I was like, there's got to be a different way to think than the way that I think now. And I was doing the work, but again, I came from a very anxious existence myself. I was a very anxious individual. I would buy a book and flip to the last page so I knew what was going on. I was like, well, this is how this ends. Now I know. And that was me. And I was like, I didn't know how to think differently, but I knew that there was different ways of thinking because I had met people in life that weren't like me. They were peaceful. They had joy. They were loving people. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. But like, I couldn't do that. And so there was something on my heart. There was something calling me to go, you have and I had been told, because I had sat with people. I had sat with people who were like dream workers, people who had different modalities, like energetically. And they were like, dude, you've got a ton of really, really cool energy, but you don't know what to do with it. And that's why it's making you miserable, because you're avoiding your purpose. You're avoiding the things and the gifts that God has given you. And this is what that feels like. This is what that looks like. It looks like resentment towards self. It looks like anger with self. And so I just kept thinking, at that time I was doing a lot of like self-help stuff, but I was also really eyeballing like plant medicine. I was like, I want to try this. I want to be able, I had done mushrooms and I liked the psychedelic experience of mushrooms. Mushrooms made me feel really peaceful. And when I found out that like we could accessibly get like 5-MeO DMT, I was like, dude, fuck yeah, put me in. Like, put me in, coach. Let's figure it out. Everybody else was kind of trepidatious. They were a little like, I'm not sure, I'm kind of scared. I'm like, beam me up, bro. Let's check it out. And what's really interesting to talk about your hell analogy and how you're thinking on is it was very interesting because I had what was called an ego death, which is where you just kind of melt away. Everything goes away. It's just you and nothing else. Like, it's not your emotions. There's no ego front. It's what people talk about. Well, like, I met God, right? And it was really interesting because you experience what people say is essentially a death. You die, right? And there's this experience that's happening in your brain. What I'm talking about is you can see these things, but you don't see them with your eyes. You feel through them, and it's almost kind of like watching a dream. Like you're kind of lucid dreaming, but you're awake enough to know everything that's going on in the dream and everything else. And in that place, I met death, and he was terrifying, and he was absolutely terrifying. And until he got close to me, and I realized that he was just me. And I know
what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, what it was that when he came to me, I was very terrified, and then like a peace came over me. And then once immediately, the moment that I stopped being afraid, so did death. Death wasn't scary anymore. He was only terrifying because I was terrified of it. And I was like, hang on a second, because he literally changed in front of me from something that was terrifying, this like absolute creature of terror and power that was taking me to just another person. He actually looked like me. And I was like, wait, so you're not scary? He goes, well, I don't have to be. And I go, so you look like this? He goes, well, I look like this for you. And again, I don't know if this conversation took place. I just know that when you're in it, it feels so real and that you're there. And the thing is this, there's nothing separate from you.
No.
Not even death. So how you choose, like you said, how you choose to face that last breath, it's up to you. Death can be the scariest, most hellish thing imaginable, or it can just be more of you. It can be a peaceful thing. It can be whatever you make it. And that was like this big revelation for me in the moment, in that experience. And when people kind of do this thing, what happens is when they pop, and it's a really cool thing to be part of, at least once or twice in life, because I've seen people who are full like atheists pop and just like give glory to the Most High, like give glory to God, and just thank God. And they're crying and they're laughing hysterically because it's like, dude, this is a joke. Like I have taken this far too seriously. I have held onto this emotion far too long. I have, resented for far too long. All these emotions that I've said, no, I'm going to grab this and hang on to it. I was only supposed to ever grab onto two emotions, and that was love and forgiveness. That's it, because those are the two infinite things that make us who we are.
Yeah.
And so it just goes back to what you were saying, at least in my mind. And it was really cool because for me, it was kind of a glimpse enough to know that, and I've made these, I've had these conversations with my son and the people who are important in my life. I say, hey man, if I'm ever brutally murdered in like an alleyway and I'm stabbed, don't worry about me. Like, I'm not sitting there dying alone going, oh my God, my life was, I'm like, I'm good to go, dude. Like, it's all good. I don't have any regrets about my life, know?
So you've reached a place where you feel a lot more peaceful with yourself.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the role of acceptance?
Yeah.
In that state of being?
Yeah. So, it's a constant work in progress. And I feel like that's kind of step one, is that I think that especially in the Western world, we feel like, if I do enough, if I pray enough, if I'm good enough, if I love enough, then I won't feel certain ways or I won't have certain experiences. And that's not true. It's this place that we exist in is always going to be this place. And it's always a constant. It's like, I always tell people, it's like when you go to the gym, it's a gym situation. When you look in the gym, there's people that are 300 pounds that's their first time there. There's people that have been going for 10 years. They look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's people that are in the middle. We're all in different parts of the journey. That's just where we're at.
But we're always, all those people are going to the gym.
They're going to the gym
regularly.
Exactly. They're going to the gym regularly. They're not going, well, I'm going to go once, then I'll go next year. It's the difference of, am I going to put effort and work into this, or am I just going to let it happen? Right. And so the acceptance part is, first and foremost, the things that I had to accept was that I'm not going to have a good day every day. I'm not going to wake up and be great every day. After you become aware of that fact and you accept that fact, then you can start going, okay, well, what do I do on the days that I don't wake up and feel great? What do I do with myself?
And what is that? What is that for you?
Yeah. So for me, my day typically starts, if it's a great day, I get up and the first thing I do before I do anything else is I get on my knees and I thank God for waking me up, because it's not owed to me. I get to be grateful for this life. I'm not owed it. So I get to thank God for the air in my lungs, for the blood in my heart, and for another day to wake up and play this game, whatever it may be. I ask him to guide my day. I ask him to hold my hand through this day, because I'm not anxious about anything that I'm going to experience. I know I'm going to experience things that make me anxious, and that's totally okay. I want to go through those things with a power that is infinite, not my own understanding, not my own emotions. And what's interesting is I can do that, and I'm usually I'll make really good connections. I'll feel a really good emotional release. Usually I pray for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes before I even do anything else. That's how my day starts. And I've noticed the contrast when I don't do that. Like when I get up and maybe I'll jump on social media, or like I have a TV in my room, I'll throw my TV on, maybe throw some YouTube on, and I'll go take a shower. And I've noticed those are the days that I really don't feel great, is when I skip that part of the day for whatever reason. Maybe I just don't feel like it, or, I try to do it and I'm like, I don't really feel like anything's happening right now. So, amen. And then I move on with my life. But that's kind of step one for me. Step one, and I've seen a big change in my mindset from that, because the first thing I'm doing in the morning is I'm letting go. And I don't know if you're like this, or if your listeners are a little bit. It's like when I wake up, the first thing that goes in my mind, before I even think about it, it's either a carnal desire, which is like, either like sex, reproduction, food, exercise, the things that my skin needs right away, or it's whatever residual things are happening going on from like the day prior. So my mind's going, okay, well, we got to do this. And it's all kind of left brain, get to work, do this thing, and it sets you on a really low plateau. And so I have found that if I wake up and I say, that's great. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to worship. I'm going to at least do my part to try to access something that's higher than that. Then I'm at least starting in a higher place. The bar isn't already on the ground. It's a little bit higher. And that's not because of me. I'm not saying I'm a little bit higher.
No.
It's just my mindset and my energy. And you can, I don't know if you kind of have that. What, do you have something like that as well? Like, what do you do?
So I do, so it might sound weird, but this is what I do.
That's okay.
I take a shower, and in the shower, I pray.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, dude.
And I ask God to put me on His path. That's what I ask God. It's like I'm a firm believer that I didn't know that the city of Fresno existed 4 years ago. I did not. I was living in the United Kingdom.
Oh, look at you.
Right. So what I'm trying to get at is my life has not turned out the way I expected it. I'm living somewhere that like I said, I didn't know about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I married somebody that I didn't expect to marry. I'm doing things. My life plans didn't go according to what I wanted them to be, and because of that, and I'm very grateful for where I am and what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm very happy doing where I am, and I think a lot of it stems from that what you just said is being grateful for what you have every day. I think a sense of gratefulness is foundational to happiness.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
If you're not grateful, you can't be happy.
Right. Because you don't have anything to be happy for in that circumstance. Because again, everything's owed to you, and I've noticed this in so many people that I talk to. There is a substantial difference in mindset between people who are happy and people who are not, and the difference is gratuity. Because I don't know anybody, and I'm sure there are people that are, but I don't know anybody who's exactly where they planned on being 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know it. There's too much that we don't know. You might have the job that you wanted, or you might have the person that you wanted, but the rest of it is, it's so funny because I was talking to people about this. I go, people have their arguments about what the theme of the Bible is. I go, the Bible is people telling God, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then He gives it to them and they go, well, I don't want it that way. I wanted it this way. We were talking about, and I want to get biblical. I don't know what your show is about it, but it's like, we were talking about Zechariah. They prayed for a son for decades. They prayed for a son. God was like, I'm going to give you a son. He's like, well, I'm 80 now. Like, I wanted him when I was 40 or, 20, but I'm 80 now. And God's like, well, I'm giving you a son anyway. Good luck. And He's like, so it's like we have this thing. And so what I mean by saying all that is that if you're not grateful, then you can't experience all the little changes, all the little detours, all the little roads that you take. Yeah. You can't experience Fresno and be grateful for it, especially coming from the United Kingdom, Yeah. So it's like, if you're not grateful, then everything is a pain. Whereas if you're grateful, everything can be a gift,
It's that lens through which you see the world. Yeah. It's like, I think it's very similar to what you said about meeting death.
Yes.
Right? You can look at this with a point of view as, I'm going to explore this. What is this about? Mm-hmm. Or, no, I don't like this because of X. You can always not like anything. If they give you, 50 tons of gold, I'm sure you can find.
You can complain about how heavy it is.
Mm-hmm. Or how am I going to, handle all this money? Mm-hmm. You can think negatively about anything. Yeah. And you can think positively about
anything. Yeah. It's a frame of mind.
It's completely that. Yeah. And I think it takes some maturity and some life experiences to get to that point.
Yeah. Well, and some of the most grateful people come from the people that I've met in my life who are truly grateful, and they're not old, they're younger, is they've had like horrendous circumstances happen in their life, physical circumstances, right? I think about people that I've met from different parts of the world. like from Africa or from like different places where they're like, dude, you guys don't know what you have here.
Yeah.
Like you're so ungrateful, and they're right. We are. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's either that or you're right. It is just kind of experience where you're going, I've got a pretty good life. I can choose to really enjoy it, or I can choose to focus on the things that I don't have. And it's interesting that you make that point, because it mimics the experience that we have here. But anytime you're doing any kind of like psychedelic or hallucinogenic experience, and I'm not advocating for those things. I look at them as medicines. I look at them as something that you take to kind of help you get to a place. Some people just take them like, I'm going to go to a rave. It's like, okay, well, that's great. This is a really sacred thing that you're just going to go do at a rave, I guess. That's cool. But anytime you're in an experience, a truly psychedelic experience, fear and anything other than gratitude shrinks the experience. When you hear people say, well, I had a really bad trip, it's because it brought you to a place where you were supposed to exercise gratuity. Like death. I was terrified of death. And in an experience, fear makes everything smaller. And what happens is in an experience like that, when you look at it from a point of view of fear, then it just gets smaller or it goes away. Whereas gratuity, when you go, well, man, or curiosity, right, which stems from gratuity, because I can be grateful for something, now I'm curious about it. It gets bigger and it gets more defined, and it turns into whatever you want it to be. Even in the fact with like death turned into something that was just an extension of myself. Like, what more beauty can you see in the fact it's like, dude, this is just, death isn't even separate from me. But it was a point of view, a shift in my view towards that. Our lives are the same thing. And it's why I'm so passionate about like these discussions and having conversations like this, because there's so many people out there, men especially, like we are the leaders of our homes. We're the leaders of our children's lives in so many ways. And what our emotional state is how our family will be. If we are dysregulated, if we're all jacked up, if we don't know how to manage our emotions, then our family pays for it.
Yeah.
That my family paid for it. When I was growing, when I had my family, our wives pay for it. I talk about a lot because again, I grew up in it, but there's a scripture that talks about how the man's the head of the household, right? You can use that for a tyrannical purpose. You can use it as a symbolic purpose. But I really look at this. I go, this place really depends on your mindset, and whatever your mindset is, that's what you're putting out.
Yeah.
So if the man is the head of the household and his head is a mess, then his house is going to be a mess, and your kids' lives are going to be a mess, and your wife's going to be miserable. Whereas if you can really lock yourself into being grateful, loving, forgiving, right, then that's what you're going to put out. That's what's going to be in your home. That's what's going to be in your family. That's what your wife's experience is going to be. That's what your kids' experience are going to be.
I love your story of, you've gone through these trials and tribulations, and, you went through a marriage that didn't work because of, and then you identified what wasn't working, and through successive trials of different methods and ways, you've come to be where you are today, which is, love, acceptance,
gratuity,
being grateful. So at this point, what does growth look like for you?
Right now, honestly, it's really aligning with, it's so funny that you say you get in the shower and pray. I'm going to tell you, I pray and then I get in the shower. When I end my prayer, I say amen, and I say, hey, I'm going to, whatever you have to answer, like hit me in the shower with it. And I'll just sit in the shower and I'll listen. I wait,
Yeah.
And, but for me, what that looks like right now is saying, hey, lead me. I want to live your day. Like, I don't want to live my day. My day is small. My day is set with even things like coming here. Like, I was super stoked to do this, but 2 hours ago, I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. It's across town. I'm tired, but it's like, no, I want to do this. This is super cool because again, it's not my day. Like, I'm being led here to this place. Like, I was led to reach out to you. We were led to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
And so for me, what growth looks like for me is full release every day. Like, get me out of the way, so that I can do a will that's higher than mine, so I can utilize the gifts that I've been given, not that I have, but the gifts that I've been given to and put them out into this place. Because if we're not doing that, then what are we doing? What are we doing?
You can only do two things. Do exactly what you just said, which is give your gifts away, give them to people, love. It doesn't mean, work for free, or it means do what you feel is the right thing to do.
Right.
Right. If you don't do that, I believe you will inevitably do the opposite. You will be getting, you will do non-loving things.
Right. Well, and again, we go back to, and so, you're catching me on a point where I'm really into Bible and into like scripture, and because that's where my higher calling is right now.
Yeah.
And it's worked a long way to get to that point. If you would have hit me a couple of years ago, I'd be talking about plant medicine. I'd be talking about ayahuasca. I'd be talking about those experiences, which we can. But right now, where you're catching me is scripture, and it's like I'm looking at it from a completely different lens now. Mm-hmm. And to talk about, or to add on to what you just said, I mean, what does Christ say? That those who want to keep their lives will lose it, and those who look to lose their lives will keep it, right? He's telling you exactly what you just said. He's like, if you're so afraid of like being seen in a certain way, because there's other parts to that, but his whole point is like, don't be so worried about it. Like, give your gifts away. Like show up in the moment. Be who you are. Get into yourself and figure out where are you lacking, because that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Everybody's doing it. We're all lacking something. That's how we come together and have conversations just like this. And if me and you met in a different arrangement, or I'm not even going to use that, how many times have you met somebody in a different setting and it's a completely fictitious conversation? Maybe it's over a drink, or you just bumped into somebody. Hey, how you doing? Oh man, I'm doing great. How's work? Oh, you're good. I'm good. Okay. Hey man, have a great day. It's nice talking to you. See you. Bye. Versus like, I just met you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know you. You don't know me. But we just had this beautiful conversation because of the things that we chose to talk about. We chose to talk about brokenness. We chose to talk about emotions that stem from that. We chose to talk about how to deal with those things, move forward with them, and then get to a point where we're now utilizing those things, right? As opposed to, and again, we go back to the hell thing. My whole life's always been hell. I've always had it. Well, it's like, these were gifts. If you saw them, right?
Yeah.
These were gifts.
Exactly.
I look at my life and I love my parents to death, but emotionally they made a lot of mistakes. I haven't made those mistakes, I think, with my kid, because again, the relationship I have with my son is completely different than the relationship I had with my mom and dad. And I feel like it's the relationship they wanted with me, but they didn't know how to do it. They were afraid. They were afraid of losing that life as a perfect parent, which is like, well, you were never a perfect parent. So it's like my higher calling right now, and my highest excitement is getting up, worshiping, and asking God, what do you have for me today? Because I'm ready to do it. I don't want to live the day that Simon wants. Simon wants to sit at home and do nothing.
I love that.
I want to live the life that you want. So that's my highest thing right now.
Okay. And the last question I always ask my guests is, what is a challenge or the challenge that you face in your current path of growth?
Just trusting that that's all I need to do. Trusting that it is finished. Trusting that I like to make my life complicated, so therefore I don't make the changes that I know need to be made. And it's really just getting myself out of the way. And what I mean by that is, for example, like right now, like financially, like I'm really struggling financially. And so there's things that will come across that I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do with that, man. Like, okay. And then I start to stress out and I start to freak out. And I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And it's like, I don't have to worry about that. I have to worry about showing up to the best of my ability and being led. And it's not by going, well, I don't have to worry about it, I'll worry about it. That's not what I mean. What I mean by it is that this isn't something that's in my power right now. And so I need to accept that. I need to do what I can to manage that. And sometimes that's a physical thing. Maybe I'm feeling really like anxious about it. Okay, well, what that's telling me is that thought isn't going to do this. You have to do something physical, whether that be working out, whether that be going for a walk, whether that be calling somebody who I know is spiritually, mentally, and emotionally responsible, and just going, hey, dude, I'm feeling some kind of way. You got a few minutes. One of the, and I don't know how long this is, but I'm gonna wrap it up. But one of the things that I try to do with my friends is I'm honest with them. I don't just go, hey, how you doing? I'll be like, hey, do you have a minute to talk?
Yeah.
Do you have 8 minutes? I really need to get some stuff off my chest. And what I have found in that, I have found a wonderful, amazing sense of community, because when you do that, people see you. and they're able to relate to you because they've been in exactly the same position you've been, or they just got done being in that position, or they're going to be in that position a week from now. And because you trusted them enough to let them see you, now they can do the same thing with you. And that's how we build community, right?
Exactly.
So, anyway, that's it.
I love what you just said, because it's really about sharing yourself, your genuine self, with other people every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like on Instagram where you only share
The highlights.
Exactly. And I think that is what you just said, is that builds community, that builds relationships, that builds trust, because you're willing to be vulnerable. And if you're not, then you're not really, you're not going to grow. That's what I believe. I think, you need to to grow, you need to put yourself out there. You need to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
You need to do what you're fearful of. And you will have bad days. You will fail. Things will not go the way you want them to go, but that's okay, because I feel like that builds trust.
Yeah. It's the only way to build trust.
Yeah.
It's the only way to build authentic trust is to be authentically vulnerable.
Exactly. So before we started, I asked you to pick one of those questions that I sent to you, and I forget which one it was, but I know. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, it was 7, but I was going to try to put you on the spot, but you're good.
Yeah, it was. But what was the actual question? I don't know. Let me find it here. So it was how to come back when things go wrong.
Yes, sir.
And the gist of it, so I have this workshop that I've made. It's called Reclaim Your Sanity.
Okay.
And this is when things go wrong. Always move in the direction of hope, even if it's hard.
Yep.
And I think that is something I learned when I was dealing with, again, that episode of being depressed. I realized that if I do anything that gives me hope, that makes me hopeful for something better, even if it's going for, a 20-minute jog, whatever it is, you always have to move in the direction of, if this little thing will make your life better or how you feel better, you need to do that. And that's the gist of, when things go wrong, do this. Move in that direction, do things that provide you with hope. And I can tell you, so these are some questions that I asked. So we got 7 minutes or 3 minutes now before we get kicked out of here.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe we can connect.
You'll have to bring me on again. That's just that's the only way to really fix this is we'll have to do this again, right?
because yeah, I think you'll appreciate these questions if you take a look at them.
Yeah, let's see here. All right. What are you always chasing? How are you being when you're yourself? That's a tough one. What do you need in life to feel hopeful? What does a hopeful life look like if you had a year to live? I like that one. Do you need to become someone at the end of the year? Is fear stopping you? I like those. Yeah. I would love to get into that. Yeah, man, that would be great.
Yeah. So these are, I think if you answer these questions, you kind of get a sense of what invigorates you, what gives you hope, what gives you that vitality.
Yeah.
And and that's my answer for what to do when things go wrong. It's just, you have to figure out what gives you that energy, that hopefulness, because I think it's essentially about what you just said. It's going out there and putting yourself out there and doing the best you can and giving your gifts.
Yeah.
And for me, at least, it's taken a while to figure out how to channel those gifts.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you right there. Yeah, because that kind of feels like where I'm at as well. Is like, hey, I have these gifts, and honestly, that's why I reached out. It wasn't even about. It was just like I want to make myself available to do the thing that I love, which is just this, having these conversations, and that came from a point of really being in a low place and going, what can I do right now? Right? What can I actually do? And it was like, well, I can do this. This email popped up. You know, I can join this list. I can be part of this community that has you know, people doing the things they love. I love doing this, and as a result, I'm in here right now. You know, I put that in months ago, and I just happened to be on the list here while we were looking, and it's like, here we are.
Yeah.
So I would love to get more into that. I really would.
So let's plan on doing that.
Yeah, you bet.
The other thing I want to say is I think you're a great speaker.
Oh, thanks.
And I think you've lived a lot of life. So oftentimes, I don't know, this is what I feel like. I feel like we look at people who are really good at something, right? As being professionals in that they've lived, you know, if you're a great tennis player, you've been playing tennis for 30 years, you know, and you're a great tennis or a golfer or, you know, a business executive or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I also believe that what you just said about the way you've lived, what you've experienced, not everyone goes through all of that, right?
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of training
Oh yeah. Yeah.
in overcoming, and I think, you know, again, I've never met you before. This is our first time, you know, talking to each other.
It's been a pleasure, by the way.
Likewise, honing in on what is it that you have experienced, because and very making it very crystal clear. And I think that is a huge gift. Because what you shared with me is, you know, I've talked to a lot of people, right? Nobody that I've spoken to has shared what you shared in the way that you shared it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Right?
I appreciate that.
Which was very, you were very well spoken, and you shared from the heart, and you weren't scared to be vulnerable.
No, yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of value in that, and I think a lot of people will appreciate and see themselves in you. So all I'm saying is, I think there's something there for you to share more of with the world.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that, because I agree. I feel like there's you know, thankfully I've been speaking publicly since I was about 6 years old. That's one of the joys of being raised in the religion I was, is I gave my first talk when I was about 8. So,
wow.
you know, I'm very eloquent from what I can, from what people have told me. And I, just because of my walk, I am pretty bare when I walk around. I am pretty vulnerable. You know, I like being that way. I feel like being any other way is just not who I am. So I agree with that. But yeah, man, let's do it again.
Okay.
I would love that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet.